Who did you have to become to get where you are?
Yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
I have this quote, only those who risk are free. I was like, why the hell would Lucifer tell me that? Welcome to the Cashflow Cartel podcast, where we talk about whatever's on our hearts and minds and our stories of entrepreneurship. Here, my guest is Rob Gone MIA.
That's it.
Yeah. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. So let's just dive right into it. Where were you at before you became an entrepreneur?
I was always a little bit of an entrepreneur is a good answer to that question.
Okay.
Ever since I was a kid. But I went to, before I really knew what I wanted to do, I went to Chapel Hill for school. And when I was in college, I started selling drugs and barely graduated, but did graduate. And after I graduated, about 6 months later, they got me good, and I ended up doing 3 years in prison. And so a lot of self-development through that. I got out, went into sales with the intention of getting to entrepreneurship. I don't want to go too fast. I guess we can kind of come back and dig in. Mm-hmm. I did really well in sales, number one in the companies I worked at, and then I waited to find about a high-ticket product to sell. I heard about a guy through the grapevine and went into solar, and that was kind of where it started.
All right, so let's. I'm gonna poke at you a little bit. What were you selling?
Pretty much whatever people were buying. And so mainly I got the biggest charge for cocaine. So I got a cocaine trafficking charge, which the mandatory minimum, if you don't snitch, is 3 years for over an ounce. So that's what I did. But I definitely was selling pretty much whatever people would buy. And I didn't realize the negativity that was bringing back to my life at all.
I can kind of relate to that. You know, when I was younger, I did the same shit, but I only sold weed and ecstasy. But when my friends started coming around every week for ecstasy at the time, and I saw them start to deteriorate, I quickly got out of that and decided, you know, I don't want to be part of someone else's destruction, especially someone I care about. So I got out of that. But where did you go? What kind of sales did you first start off with?
So when I first got out, I started bussing tables at night. I'd had to network to find that opportunity. And then I continued to network until I found a sales job during the day. I didn't care what kind of sales it was, whatever would take me. But the kind that will take almost anybody is typically inside cold calling sales. Mm-hmm. And so I started at web.com, which was at the time the biggest digital marketing firm in the world. And I came in as a cold caller, so calling real estate agents to sell them websites, pay-per-click advertisement, SEO. And so that was where it started.
So what did you learn and what did you struggle with that first position?
There were a lot of hard lessons. So I wanted to make sure that when I got my opportunity, I treated it like it was my only one. Because when you're a felon getting out of prison, if your first job, they're going to give you a shot. If you get fired, don't perform well, that next job might be really hard to get. And so I memorized the whole script before the very first day. I didn't sit down at all in my chair until that whole year. I didn't sit down at all. And I also came an hour early. I went to the gym and then got to work an hour early to source leads that were better than everybody else's leads. And so it took 2 months for me to be number one. In the first month, I was getting a ton of appointments. And then the first mindset shift was realizing that even though everybody else would send their leads to the closer and they would say it's not I can't control what happens there, I had to realize that there are parts that are in your control even on the set. And I was setting a tremendous amount and none were closing. I didn't know what it was. Well, what it was is I wasn't qualifying my leads well enough. And so I kind of learned to always take responsibility for the outcome, regardless of if somebody else is involved. I learned to think in a solutions-based way instead of in a way where you just accept defeat and blame it on somebody else. So that was a huge shift. And then I think that's when I started coming in early to source my own leads. I was like, I have to do something different. And it worked right away. I was making more money than the closers as a setter. It was number one at that massive company in 2 months. Then I got promoted to closing, and it took another 2 months for me to kind of get that. And it was pretty smooth from there. I just kept working just as hard and was number one almost every month. Obviously, there's tons of lessons I had to learn after that, but that was the main one, was just learning to decide that you can control your outcome. People think that not everybody can be a top sales performer. I have to argue, if you memorize the script before the first day, if you don't sit down and you come in and you work an hour or two more than everybody else, you're going to win. It's almost impossible for somebody to beat you.
Extreme accountability for your actions, and that leads to the results that you produce.
Exactly.
Most definitely. Yeah.
There's always something else you can do.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing 3 or 4 things more than the next guy, then you're not going to win every time.
Exactly.
So that's it.
And then, so you said you went from that company to solar sales, or another sales company?
Technically, they shut down that division of that company after I'd been there a year. And it was a feeling like I just got out of prison. I built this skill. I'm finally safe. And then they took it all away, right? And I was like, oh, shit. Well, and I just reflected on it. A lot of my friends that were there that had come in with me, like Devin, he started with me in that job.
Right.
I was like, what we need to do is find another company selling the exact same thing nearby, go do that, and then keep our eyes open for the next opportunity so we don't have a gap in employment and we can use the skills we already have. And so I found a company called Plum. It was a smaller company, but it did the same thing. Me and kind of all my guys, we all went there. My very first month, I was number one.
Hell yeah.
And then I was number one almost every month. Obviously, there's a couple where I was number two. And then I met Sachi. So I heard about some guys that had a solar company through a friend, and they told me their reps were getting paid $20,000 a month. And I was like, and they said they had a penthouse they had parties at in Charlotte. And I was like, get me to that penthouse, and I'm going to start my own solar company. And I told that guy right there that's what I was going to do, and he's watched the whole thing since then.
Oh, yeah.
So I met these guys that had the solar company. I worked, when I was in sales at the first job, I was bussing tables at night, sales in the day. Once I'd been number one for a few months, I quit that. And once I learned about solar, I again gave my nights and weekends back to that. So I'd get off work at 5, drive to South Carolina, or either cold call until 8. And then the weekends, I'd work 12 hours a day on the weekends.
So what do you think made you so good in a sales position? Like, was it just the fact that you had just got out of prison and you were just like, I got to make this work no matter what? Or what was it that you, like, who did you have to become the top salesman?
I've always been very resilient, which is why I've been able to bounce back so many times. And it's also because I've been hit so many times that I developed that. So I had resiliency, but I'm just extremely stubborn. When I set my mind on being the best at something, I absolutely will be. And I'll work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to make that happen. So that is part of why I got in trouble selling drugs, because no matter how many times God was like, you need to stop, or how many times I got robbed at gunpoint, I'm not the type to quit selling drugs because I got robbed. I'm the type to be like, well, I have to make a lesson. I have to turn up.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy I am. And so I had to be in there for a year and a half before I quit. Before I just in prison for a year and a half before I was like, you know what, I'm better than this.
Yeah.
But it was just the resiliency that allowed me to be a top salesperson, and the determination. And then once I developed the way of thinking that it's all within my control, that was where I was able to succeed from that point.
And then how did you meet Devin? And then, where did he come into play?
Very first day, I'd been out 3 months. And very first day on training at web.com, we were in the same class. And, this guy's 6 years younger than me. But at some point during the training class, we spoke, and we just pretty much became best friends right there. And that's got to be 6 years ago at this point. And so he and I started working together. I learned a lot of things from him. He learned a lot of things from me. He's been one of those friends where you can count on him to be ready to take it to the next level. So we had our friend group initially, and there came a day where we were like, we want to hang out with people that are going somewhere. We broke off from that group. And so he and I have just always grown together. There were times where I had to help him kind of overcome his own obstacles as he develops into a man, and where he really took his work effort at work to a different level. And then obviously there came a point where we were like, we were destined for more than Charlotte, and we left there together as well. And the guy who I had learned about solar from, he came as well. And so he's investing into my solar company at this point. And so when I make a friend, as long as it's someone that's got integrity and they want to be the best version of themselves, that's a person that I'll build with long term. And I've got tons and tons of friends that I've made that long 10-year plus relationships.
Yeah, man, it's important to have those type of people around you, and it's important to cut the other people off. And it sucks, that you have childhood friends that you've had for so long, but you have to let them go because they're comfortable being where they are in life. You know what I mean? And I'm the type of person, I'm not going to settle for being average.
Right.
I just can't do that. Like,
right.
I want to retire my family. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. They're financially set for decades. Right. And I attribute that to just cutting off people and surrounding myself with like-minded individuals. And I guess that's kind of how we met through Sebi. And then, man, I look forward to doing more work together in the future.
Me too.
So what did, because we're in the same space, for all the people that are watching that don't know, we're in the same credit and funding space. How did you get started in that space?
It's Devin again. So I was doing solar. I think I quit the job. So first off, when I did quit my job and I was working nights and weekends in solar, when I had my first few big paychecks coming, and I was like, if I'm going to quit this job, I'm going to make sure they'll take me back. So I intentionally broke the all-time company sales record that month and then quit the next day. It was a lit exit.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, and he was like, let me know if you want to come back. I was like, thank you. So I quit, and then maybe 6 months later, I was speaking with Devin. He was on track for management there. And I was like, Devin, let's play out the best case scenario. You get director of sales. Maybe you have $200,000 saved up 5 years from now. Best case. Yeah. Probably not. And I was like, is that where you want to go? Or would you rather try to have something bigger? And I saw it when it clicked in his head. He went and quit, came and worked with me. And then that maybe a year later of him working with me in solar, he was always looking. He started doing credit repair for himself first. It took him 18 months using creditrepair.com. And then we had moved to uptown Charlotte, like the nicer area, and we were working in that place. And I think he started doing credit repair just from word of mouth, writing the letters by hand. And then not in 3 months or so, he's making $5K residual. I was like, okay. And I knew the day was coming where he was going to say, I want to go and do this on my own. Because he didn't have equity in my solar business. And I would do the same thing if I was him.
Right.
And so that day came, and I was like, and he didn't have himself funded yet. I was like, and I had my solar business mostly automated at this point, like outsourcing call centers. And I said, I'd rather do this with you than without you, brother. I said, I can do both. So how about we do 50-50 in credit? You manage the day-to-day. I'll apply my systems, and I'll fund it. And he said, sure. I put in $10,000 3 years ago, and I haven't taken money out yet. And now I took back my 10. I think I actually did take money for the first time like a few weeks ago, but now our recurring monthly is like 70 grand, and we're adding 20 a month to that. We're pacing for 200 deals this month, a little more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're about to, Colin Jernson just started passing us his credit from all his webinars.
Oh, nice.
That's another 10 grand a week.
Oh, hell yeah.
And then we're doing our webinar funnel. And so I truly anticipate that in the next 60 days that I'll be able to put up 1,000 deals a month, which is adding, that's adding 100,000 or so, maybe much more than that, dude. It's getting ridiculous.
No, that's good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what happens when you have systems in place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I started credit repair doing it for myself too, then doing it for friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, okay, let me just make a business out of it. But I started reverse. So I learned how to do funding first. And then
That was me too.
I fucking paid a mentor, learned funding, and funding's all it is just data points and learning the bank's algorithm and knowing what you need in order to apply and get the high limits. But I was giving credit repair clients that didn't, qualify for funding to someone else, and I was like, after a while, I was like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then I just learned how to do it myself. Did it myself on myself first, and then did it with friends and family, and then it's just been referral, like just built up like that.
The referrals, they're very, for some reason, it's harder to get referrals from internet leads than it is from personal network. We're constantly implementing more things to improve that process. And it's kind of similar for me. I never needed credit repair. But when Devin came to work for me in solar, this is like one of those moments where most people would have quit and gone back to the day job. So Devin said, Devin had a huge influence on all this. And that's the crazy thing. I never would have expected credit to become, one of my favorite businesses. But he came to do solar with me. And at this point I was still knocking doors. And he was like, we come with an inside sales background. Being in that company allowed me to see how you structure a large call center. And he was like, if we're going to do this, it needs to be scalable. He was like, you're not going to get these door guys to stick. They're going to go with the cheapest price. You can't scale it, really, not near as easily. And so we decided to switch to inside sales for solar. And that's like something that a lot of people used to say you couldn't even do. It's not successful.
Right.
So we started cold calling in North and South Carolina. And we came to learn that in places where the utility rate is low, you have to be at their house to sell it. It's an emotional decision. Lay the numbers out. It's not that logical.
Right.
And so I had Devin and 3 other guys cold calling in a garage with me every day. Part of it, some of them, maybe they weren't making quite as many calls as they should have been, but at the end of the day, we ran out of money. And we were out, and Devin had to pay his rent, and I made a long drive down to Georgia for my grandmother's funeral, and on the way back, 6-hour drive or so, I just became convicted. I knew somebody that was closing internet leads in Massachusetts from California, and I was just like, I can do it. And I think I had maybe a $12,000 credit limit between a couple cards, personal and business. So I leveraged everything I had, bought 4Gs in leads for that month, and then paid everybody for their rent, gave them loans. And we had maybe 3 or 4 sales. So I risked it all in November, at the end of November. December 8th on my birthday, we got 3 sales. And I was like,
yeah. And how much how much did you get per sale?
I think it was 28 grand or something is what we were owed in total.
Sheesh.
And then I was like, we got to wait. But now I don't get paid for 6 months. So now I'm like, okay, so I got to get some more credit cards. So I get credit cards, and it used to scare the hell out of me to use it because it's just not something people do. People don't have no money and spend and go tens of thousands of dollars into debt, and I just risked it all.
Yeah.
And when I was risking it all, that meant that I had to make sure that these leads were getting followed up with. So I'm just in this, honestly, I was in a kind of a fear mode for 2 years, running up tons of debt, continuing to deal with issues of ups and downs in the business, and having to carry that. And so I just kept getting more cards until the point where I had a $250,000 in credit limit. I remember when I first crossed 50 grand of debt, and I was like, oh God. And then I crossed 70, and then it kept going up. And I just was able to manage it. So I did that. I started the other businesses with Devin. And eventually I could see that, honestly, it wasn't until I got a little relaxed maybe a year and a half ago. And then I had the second biggest, scariest moment. So I'm maybe 150 grand in debt or something like that a year ago. I just moved to Miami, first penthouse.
Okay.
And then my installer, who I had sold probably 30 or 40 jobs for, so we're talking like, $80,000 investment, something like that. And he owed me about 300 grand. He just fucked off.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It was mostly, so it was all my deals. But I'm like, I just put a year of work in, working my ass off, risking everything. And now what I'm supposed to be paid is less than the 150 grand of debt I have. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what am I going to do? And that's when I learned to leverage my relationships, because all my partners, like, they knew what I was doing for a long time. I had already switched to another installer before I realized the first guy was going to screw me. Mm-hmm. And my partners had been getting paid already. So they were like, everything was good with the relationships I had. I've been working with this guy, Steve, who owns a call center in Egypt for 2 years at the time. Mm-hmm. And he had told me he wanted to start a business with me. And so I called him and I said, Steve, so I've got an idea. I know you said you want to start a business. How about this? How about instead of me paying you up front for the callers, you cover that and I'll give you 50% profit share, which is a much higher interest rate than credit cards, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's much higher. But the thing is, what I realized is I wasn't limited anymore. I could take on 6 people just like him, mm-hmm. and then scale a huge team with other people's money and work my way out of it. And so that's what I did. And then
that's fucking crazy.
So even when I hit that point, so I kind of balanced for a while and now I'm finally going to be able to pay all that debt off in the next 30 days. I've got more than enough coming in to pay it off every month, but I've just kind of been waiting for a second. Mm-hmm. But it was 2 big lessons. First, it was how to use credit. And I used credit to build out my systems, teach me how to use everything, to have records in my system where I can show people the close rate that I've been doing for a year. Mm-hmm. And then I leveraged that into my relationships and allowed that to fix the credit problem.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I kind of have a similar story. Like, I went like 40 G's into debt on the personal side, buying mentorship and mm-hmm. course after course, mentorship. And then there was only 2 mentorships that like were worth it. Mm-hmm. Anything. Funding and then the same thing. Pace Morby's real estate mentorship. Mm-hmm. And then I started, because of Pace Morby's mentorship, the relationships that I made in there allowed me to scale to where I'm at today. And even though I'm wearing all the hats in my business as of mm-hmm. today, just those relationships within that community alone, they trusted in me because they know that I put up the $8,000 for their mentorship mm-hmm. just like they did. So they're like, okay, and Pace is all about being a go-giver. Mm-hmm. So, I thankfully made all that money back. But then once I got funded, I started a trucking company in hopes of retiring my family with that. The trucking industry right now is fucked.
Got a little worse. I heard. It was really good for a second, and then it got bad.
Like a fucking millisecond. Yeah. And then it just took a shit. So, that's 117,000 in the hole. And like, it racks up quick, your truck's on the road, and if it's not running, you're not making money, and it's breaking down consistently.
Ugh.
So it's like,
stick to online stuff that doesn't break.
Exactly. That was the biggest lesson. But it was just like, I know I'm making money. It was such a fucking, I kick myself all the time about this. Like, why didn't I just like reinvest the funds into my own business? Mm-hmm. And why did I try and do something different and like, pay someone else to do it?
I had the same moment,
And once I actually started reinvesting more money into myself and my business, that's when I just started growing and growing and growing. And I'm going to continue to do that until I fucking die, because that's the only way to continuously get better and make more money and help and serve other people. That was my biggest lesson is don't fucking fuck trucking.
Focus on, people definitely say that you can make more money if you focus on one business. But if I hadn't have done credit and some of the other things I'm doing, I never would have learned how much better it is when you have recurring revenue on online product where you don't have to rely on contractors for fulfillment. And the other businesses, even though I thought they'd never be anything close to solar, have ended up being so much easier for me to crack and have showed me the direction I want to go in the future. So sometimes it's just a cost, man. You tried trucking and it turned out you make bad, sometimes you make a bad play. I made bad plays.
Yeah. And I tell like my clients and, everyone, like try a bunch of different things out, find out what you like. You're going to fuck up, but that's why I tell everyone, pay a mentor that's verified, learn from him so you can start a business with little fuck ups as possible.
Right.
And then, you're cutting the
time.
Yeah, cutting the time to success.
Exactly. I've definitely paid for my share of mentorships. And what I've seen is just that it's usually worth it. Of course, I paid for some things that I ended up not using at all.
Yeah.
I bought this one course and it was like $10,000 and I never used it. And then I just let the card come off. And I got a letter from an attorney. They're like, we're coming to collect. I was like, damn it. I was like, I paid it. I was like,
yeah,
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that. Yeah. I paid for a fucking radio marketing fucking course or like mentorship. No, I didn't. And then once the thing is I tried to apply it, but then it takes like 6 to 12 months to get a radio on the ad at the price that you want it. And I was like, fuck this. I can't wait that long for a return on my fucking money. So I said, fuck that. And then I just found funding. I was like, all right, I'm going to start a business.
Funding's a good one.
Yeah.
We used to run credit repair ads and before we did funding, but basically I kind of left out the point of what I was telling you about the solar learning to use credit. So I funded myself not knowing how. So I literally just would go online. I'm looking what banks I can do. So I just went through a slow process of doing it myself organically. And then Devin had done credit repair. And so we were like, okay, let's do this. We were in credit repair ads for a while. And then when we moved to Miami, I was like, if I want to build a brand and really reach my goals, I need a product that most people in the country need. I was like, credit is perfect. And so I was like, I'm going to go to Miami, do funding, and build my brand on that. It's also the first thing most people need to start a business. So if you're trying to really help lift people up, having I'm leaving breadcrumbs this is how I did it. I have a business around every single key part of my success.
Right.
I help people with their marketing systems, sales training, all that kind of stuff, credit, funding. And it's really cool that it's happened organically that way. But what's really happening for me right now is we run the funding ads. And what happens is the people that come into that funnel, they're much more high intent than a credit repair ad.
Right.
And so they end up closing, if they do need credit repair, which is most of them, they move forward much more often. And you actually cover your ad spend in the first month just with credit repair. And so it's like you're getting free. The funding leads essentially aren't really costing you anything.
Right.
And then as you scale that, now I'm spending $50,000 a month and I'm paying it right back the first month. I'm getting a ton of exposure.
Oh, yeah.
A ton of it. And so it's allowing me to build my brand basically for free. So it's created a machine that's bringing people that want to be entrepreneurs into knowing who I am, giving them the foundation that they need. And then because of everything else I do, my goal is to help everybody, to give them every step of the way to build whatever kind of online business they want. I have to say credit is definitely one of the easiest and best ones to build.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So what's your experience been since you moved to Miami? What have you been through? Who have you met?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
When we were in Charlotte, we used to watch Colin Yernson and a few guys on Instagram that we knew of that had moved from where they were to Miami. So we knew they were kind of our role models when we started the credit business. So we moved down here, And guess what? I'm on a first name basis with all those guys.
Right.
Their business part, they're giving us their credit deals now.
Right.
And then I knew that it would be great for my network. But what I didn't expect, I had no idea how great it was going to be. I met this guy named George, and I don't think I understood how powerful his network was. But we partnered up in a business together. And then over the next 6 months, he kind of saw how I was and saw how hard I worked. And it kind of spread through his network. And I didn't realize how many really, really high-level people he was associated with. Turns out, you know, my thing is call centers, marketing, sales. Like, that's what I do. Mm-hmm. Turns out that's, like, the guys that do that kind of stuff, they're here. Oh, yeah. Most of them. And so all these, like, 50-year-old guys that have been running call centers their whole life, I've gotten plugged in with them. And they're, you know, I've got a billionaire who I've met through this network that he's got over $10 billion, who's looking to start a business with me and invest $2 million to start it. Oh, hell yeah. And I'm like, dude, it's absolutely insane what's happening. And also just the level I'm at in my business and confidence in my ability to manage multiple things. The next 6 months are going to be absolutely insane.
Oh yeah.
I'm super excited.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. So, I mean, did you sign like an NDA about the business that you're planning to start, or can you like drop some crumbs on it, or?
It's related to marketing one of the most popular weight loss medications.
Oh, okay.
And so semaglutide or Ozempic. Mm-hmm. And somebody else had tried to get me to do this with them before, but anything in the healthcare space is very heavily regulated. Oh yeah. And so you really do need to pay an attorney like $100,000 to just tell you how to do it the right way. Mm-hmm. And so I backed out. And then now that we're looking at this again, obviously the billionaire does have the resources to make sure we do it the right way. So that's a beginning conversation, but they've been letting me know they want to start working on that with me. And I've really got like, you know, 3 or 4 other people that we're starting to put together ventures with, that aren't on that level of that guy, but I've just become extremely confident in my ability to run sales and marketing orgs.
And I think like once you just do it for one and then another, it just becomes that much easier to just replicate the process for whatever business you decide to go into. So yeah, I've seen a lot of guys that do exactly what you're doing and then they just replicate it for whatever. It doesn't matter what the fucking, it could be fucking like a fucking, like you said, weight loss or doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. And no one
can
take that skill away from you.
Plugging in the system. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Basically I did, so I have the solar business, the credit business, and a CPA firm that specializes in getting businesses tax credits. I have a partner that manages the day-to-day in each one. I used to be the sales manager of solar. Now I've promoted my top closer in Egypt to being the manager of that one. Mm-hmm. And then I also been managing the tech of everything. And now I'm allowing my main developer to actually take the role there, the kind of like the day-to-day manager. And so I have the formula I use to be able to do so much. And still, you need one person who is pretty much purely focused on that business to be able to bring me the information I need. And now that we're starting to do the coaching and business consultancy, I'm thinking, how do I continue to keep my time free? Well, Devin he doesn't close sales anymore. He's done with that. And so I'm like, well, if I want to do marketing systems for people, we start with credit. There's probably the most credit repair businesses out of all the industries that could use the service. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, how do I manage the time? Well, I have the person who was my original partner in that business be the guy who's on point for running those sales calls and then doing the coaching. Mm-hmm. And so now in each of my businesses, I'll do that. I'll have the manager, once they're not closing sales, run point on business consultancy for that industry.
Are you using any AI for any of these automations and businesses?
All of them.
So drop them, man.
Dude, it's crazy. So there was a night, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, right after GPT-4 came out. Mm-hmm. 3.5 came out, was the first one that everybody was using. Yeah. And it just wasn't quite good enough. It didn't really catch my interest that much. I mean, it was super interesting, but I didn't think I could use it for anything. Mm-hmm. And then when 4 came out, I was looking I was using it trying to help it. I wanted to see if it could help me find how to find certain payroll forms and certain not payroll forms, but certain reports in payroll softwares. And so I was like, can you find form 941 in Xero? It's a payroll software. And then it literally was like, you go to the top right of the screen, click the green bar, do this. I was like, holy crap. It gave me exact instructions. This is the kind of thing that we had to use CPAs to help with at first. And so once I realized that, I was like, how do I integrate this into Go High Level? And it was like, well, you're going to need to code, but you can prepare a custom Zap. You can write your own private Zap, and here's how you do it step by step. And I just started doing it.
Yeah.
And then I became totally obsessed and excited because I was learning how to code. It's kind of hard to understand. Once you start learning how to code, it was like a whole other part of my brain opened up. It's a different way of organizing thought. I don't really know how to explain it because I wasn't trained formally. I'm sure if I was trained formally, I would have heard other people say how to explain what I'm trying to say.
Right.
But I don't. I'm just like, so I was locked in where I was so obsessed that first night I figured it out. It was like maybe 10 p.m. I did not sleep that entire night. I could not. I was on fire. Like I was so excited.
Yeah, I love that, man.
And for a month, I was working I would stay up until 3 a.m. locked to the computer, and I'd wake up at 7 and I'd be locked for like a month. And then I finished the first piece of software. But when I was about halfway done, I hired a developer because it had gotten tedious. It was the same thing over and over. And he was like, I don't know how to do this. And I sent him a 2-hour work session of me with a screen recording using ChatGPT to figure it out. And he was like, all right, I got it now. And I was like,
right. And
so now I've got three devs, one guy that's my main guy. And now I have that's kind of like it's a department of all of my businesses. But now I'm really optimizing that department. So right now we're developing our own outbound calling software, which will actually sound like a human. You may have seen ads for these things.
Yeah, I plugged into Air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna build our own.
Oh shit,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
How
do you go about doing that?
Right now I have 2 guys bringing me back a report for how it should be done. If you ask ChatGPT-4 how to build it, it'll tell you.
I didn't even think about that.
It will. It'll tell you how to build it step by step.
Okay.
And so once you get a basic understanding and you have a team that knows that they can figure out anything with that, I'm like, hey, go do research on this for a day, come back to me with a timeline, and then tell me if we need to get more people to get it done faster. And then I pay them. You get paid this much bonus if it's done this day. If it's a week later, it's a little less. If it's a little earlier, I'll give you more. Mm-hmm. Here's some money that you can break up to the team underneath you to incentivize them to get things done quickly. And roll.
And are you just using past sales recordings to train the AI on that?
Usually, yeah, that's one of the best ways. You can also take a script and put it into ChatGPT and say, give me 1,000 sample conversations, examples. And then so you can use ChatGPT-4 to make the training material.
There's a lot of gems in this.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, holy shit, yeah.
So I wrote that first piece of software, and then now I have, in the next few days it'll be done, but I have full AI responses and appointment booking just through email, text, Instagram, Facebook. And so if you message me my DMs, my AI version of myself is going to figure out what you're looking for, which of my services. It's going to offer you a lead magnet to book for the webinar if that's what you're wanting. It's going to get you to follow me, and then it's going to send that it's going to give you my availability on the correct business's calendar. And it's crazy.
When we were DMing, your AI just put in whatever.
Yeah. That's my old version. I've had that for a year or two. Mm-hmm. The new version is going to be live in a week or so. Okay. It's part of the webinar funnel. So,
hell yeah, man.
So
it's interesting.
And have full AI conversation through texting and everything with them, layering in the voice. And this is all my software, so I can give it to other people. That's the reason I'm it's worth it doing it myself, because I know I can, and then I can give it to other people.
What are you going to charge for it?
It probably depends on how well it works. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I mean, other companies charge like 20 cents per call for this kind of service, and then Air is more of a one-time thing.
Yeah.
But my goal really is to help all the people that I'm getting credit for and helping them understand how to run online businesses. I want to give them a cheap way to get leads, because if I can get you cheap leads, then I can help you build a call center. Then I can help you go to the next level. And so I'm more inclined to bless people and just allow them to grow with me, because if you look at all my businesses and all my friends, you know, I've been the one to start to invest into bringing them up, but they're all successful. Now they're all like making hella bread, and so I'm aware that I'm capable of investing in someone or giving them a cheap price to get them in there, and I know that I can make you successful, so I know that it's going to pay off more in the long run.
Yeah, it's a good return of investment. Hell yeah, man.
Fucking excited, bro.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm excited too. Excited to work with you, and excited to go to Poppy's in a little bit.
Oh man, I haven't been there yet.
It's a hell of a time.
I've heard. I've seen it.
It's awesome.
I wish Sebastian was here to bring a camera.
Yeah, I know.
I always forget to film myself, bro. I never do it enough. Like,
I honestly hate shooting content.
I know,
but I feel like the podcast, it's like more genuine, more relaxed. But I hate talking directly into a camera.
Bro.
I fucking hate it.
I used to hate being on camera, period. In sales, in inside sales, I kind of found my voice to speak comfortably and feel like I'm talking like myself on the phone in sales. And then I filmed my first solar ad 3 years ago. Bro, 300 takes, like literally. Yeah. I was so embarrassed and so like, I was like so mad.
Sammy was telling me, he's like, dude, if you were anyone else, I would have given up on you.
Yeah.
I fucking hate it. But I know that's what's needed to grow your personal brand. I mean, me investing into my personal brand has brought me a numerous amount of referrals, organic leads, and then it provides that like proof of like you are who you say you are. And that's why I wanted to go into the podcast space to like have these long format conversations because you can't fake who you are for that long. You know what I mean? So it's like I really love having genuine conversations with other entrepreneurs, finding out what their stories are, and really diving. Because, dude, everyone has a story. Everyone needs to share it because you could relate with someone and then they start doing business with you. Or you could inspire someone to start. Right. To just start making those first steps, you know?
And dude, for me, you know, the podcast I did 2 days ago, it's me and this other guy that both came from prison. He was in there 13 years, knows nothing about technology. He's been able to hustle up almost $1 million since he got out as well. And then here I am with this story, and it's just like people absolutely need to see that. Yeah. And they need to understand why we were able to do that. Yeah. And I'm extremely passionate about that. We're starting a nonprofit with him. He's going to go full-time into my nonprofit. So I've got someone fully dedicated. He's ready to put everything aside and just go. That's been his dream for his whole bid. Yeah. And so I'm super excited about that. There was one other thing I wanted to kind of tell you. So with filming ads, it was extremely hard for me. And then 300 takes my first time, then maybe 100 the next time, and I still hated it. About a month ago, it clicked. And now, dude, it was literally like 2 weeks ago. Sebastian came over, and it was halfway through the session where all of a sudden, I just knew how to do it. Right. And like now I don't use a script. So it's a lot of stuff I had to learn over the past few years filming. But I kind of feel like I found my voice on camera. You know, now I feel comfortable on camera. And when I have something I want to say, like Sebastian would try asking me questions and have me answer, and it just wasn't coming out like the way I wanted it to. And then all of a sudden I realized that I just have to boil down what I'm trying to say. And once I really know what I'm trying to say, like now I'm able to literally just do a reel in 2 minutes. Like I'm like, oh, I have an idea, reel.
Just let it flow.
I know how to hook and then tell the story, and boom. Yeah. And so it's like now it's coming natural. And so now like I can do 30 reels in an hour. Like, no, probably not an hour. Probably like half a day. But yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, everyone starts entrepreneurship because they want an easier life, and no one really is ready for all the shit that comes with it. Dude. And there's a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups, but those ups are worth every fucking
like ounce of blood, sweat, and tears.
Nah, I would do it again, even if it took twice as long. I would.
I mean,
it's that sweet.
I hear you. But man, like there was some nights where like I couldn't go to sleep because I had the weight of the world on my fucking shoulders, and it was just like rough.
It took me a long time to master my emotions and to be confident about my success.
But I think, I mean, you have to go through that shit in order to get stronger and build up the scars to where like the next time that you go through a stressful situation, it doesn't impact you and it doesn't affect you as emotionally as it did the first time. Like I feel like I had my fucking, where I was like, fucking, I don't know what the fuck to do. No, I can't give up. I gotta just keep fucking going. You know what I mean? So just having that attitude pushed me through. And then my vision, you know, having a strong vision,
part of it.
a clear cut vision. And I think everyone needs to take time to like build that vision and just have a clear, concise, like write it down, everything. Because that's what's going to push you through to the end zone. And there's literally like nothing that can stop you when you have a clear vision. That's nothing that's going to hold you back.
The vision is one of the most important gifts I'd say I had. Even in prison, I was like, there is a way I can write my story so that experience will take me further than I ever could have gone. And, you know, a year ago coming to Miami, I was like, I know that my story is powerful and I know that I can help people and I know that I can be just like Brad Lea, Wes Watson. I just knew it and I knew how I was going to do it. And it's actually happening much, much more quickly and naturally than I ever expected. It's like,
it's alignment, man.
It's alignment. It's
alignment
crazy.
is the key to fulfillment in life.
It's crazy.
For sure.
Once you get everything in here aligned, everything gets normal out there.
Yeah.
You know?
It starts in the mind
You have
first.
to listen to the signals you're getting from out there to know what needs to be fixed in here.
Most definitely. That's deep shit.
It's deep shit.
That's deep shit. But yeah, most definitely, man. Well, brother, it was a pleasure having you on. I don't know what time it is, but I think we got to go get a briefcase.
Yeah, let's get it. Let's get one.
Alrighty, man.
All right.